I mentioned earlier that sometimes when these video clips come up on people's timelines, they'll actually first of all see the video play without the audio. It's the default setting for most people when they scroll through videos. So one of the things we recommend is to transcribe the text that's spoken and turn that into subtitles, which will then appear. So it's interesting that a lot of people will engage now with radio content by starting to watch a little video clip in Facebook, reading the text of what's being said, actually reading the radio, and then being so excited by the content that they're reading, they're willing to click through the video and then actually listen. It's really quite simple to do. And in doing it, we have some tools that help radio stations to not just automatically convert speech to text, but also to convert speech to text over time, so that you know exactly when that word was spoken, so you can create subtitles for your video clips. But you can also then make that video searchable, so that within the station, if you're looking for your best clips, if you're looking for the most interesting moments to produce a podcast or a best of, or just looking for highlight clips from the breakfast program, then you can do that just by searching through the text. So we don't actually believe in necessarily making long format video of what you do in the radio station. But if your breakfast program or your main news program or your main talkback program can't generate 3 or 4 clips of compelling moments of radio that are 2 or 3 minutes long each day and get them to Facebook, get them to Twitter, and get them to YouTube, then you don't really have a technical problem, you have a production problem. There is one place that we really do encourage people to maybe actually broadcast live, and that is that we now have some tools and techniques for generating both Periscope and YouTube live video streams from Virtual Director, which is our visualization system that radio stations use. And so please don't broadcast. In fact, they wouldn't allow you to have a stream long enough to broadcast your entire program on Facebook Live or on Periscope, and you need to be aware of rules about both music playout and carrying any sponsorship or promotions. Even if you're not a commercial station, you'd be careful about sponsors that you mention or other advertising that you carry on those platforms, which don't permit embedded advertising. But they are, if you have a particularly strong caller or a particularly strong interview or a particularly strong segment, a great way of reaching a new live audience. And by using those platforms, that gives you the ability to not just share social content, but to actually receive feedback in real time, perhaps as we are during this webinar, to have the audience able to ask questions or engage with what's happening live in the studio. Radio is not really that watchable over the long term, but we can certainly see people watching for 15 minutes while we have a particularly strong interview on some of our radio stations. So I guess if we're talking about engaging radio, Danny, I'll get you to turn back on and we'll try some audience engagement at this point. See if there are any other tips or advice that the audience has about perhaps how they've used social or are seeking to use visualization to engage with audiences.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And just on behalf of everyone who's here in attendance today, it's absolutely wonderful to have you here as a presenter and providing so much fantastic knowledge for our community broadcasters. Now, if anyone out there in the audience does have any questions, if you could please place them in the instant message box, and I will in turn be able to convey those questions to Dan. I'm sure, Dan, you can probably see the instant message box there yourself. I've just thrown up a couple of links. The article you were referring to about James O'Brien from BuzzFeed, I've put that there, as well as the wiki on the 180-degree rule, which is a cool thing to know, not just for if you're thinking of incorporating this into your radio broadcast, but just as a sort of way to better understand how we consume visual media. I will ask a question of you in the meantime. Obviously, sort of the organisations that you're referring to there as part of your presentation are all fairly big organisations with resources that would outstrip your average community broadcasting station. For a community broadcaster who'd want to sort of be able to share their content online visually, is it, as you suggest before, it's sort of the technology is fairly easily available, it's just a matter of having the manpower there to make sure that it's getting out there?
Yes, I mean we're a radio tool maker, but we're not a TV tool maker. So we believe in building software and systems which should work with no people, no time, and no money.
Right.
Well, very little money and very few people, and So it's important that we don't break the workflow of radio. So radio is simple, it's relatively cheap to produce, it's relatively immediate, and so it's important that, yes, you don't change your radio studio into a TV studio in a way that makes it slow and complex to use, that makes it expensive to equip and to man. So remember, the number one rule is the quality of the pictures is important, and it will help you, but it's not the most important things. James O'Brien, actually, before we put cameras in the studio, we've had some success sharing clips with just a still image and the audio alongside it. So you could start with just a photo of the presenter and a nicely made, Photoshop slide. So yes, the little cameras that we use in studios cost around about £600, and each one can shoot 10 different shots in real time. So they can digitally jump to, so you only need one camera to cover 3 people and do a wide shot. So we're not talking about investing, $60,000 or hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can really, for just a couple of thousand Aussie dollars, you can turn your radio studio into a pretty good automated capture studio. It's not a TV studio. It's about putting some sort of visual content alongside it, so you can go inhabit those visual platforms that then have the search and discovery to get your content shared.